You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
So we will get started with the Town of Branford regular Board of Finance meeting for January 25th, 2021. And first on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the following meetings. March 30th, 2020, special meeting. The special meeting for May 21st, 2020. The July 20th special meeting, the August 31st meeting, October 26th, and December 7th, 2020 special meeting.
I'll move all those, Joe. Charlie.
Jeff will second them all.
Thank you. Who seconded those?
Jeff.
Jeff, thank you, Jeff. Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, next is on the agenda, item number 2 is citizens' communications. And ordinarily we have a short period of time to allocate for citizens to comment on agenda items.
I have a comment, please. Wayne Cook.
Wayne, yes, how are you?
I'm okay. Can I have a screen share, please? I asked if I could have that and sent the town clerk a letter today.
And Wayne, this is in regards to tonight's agenda?
Well, it's in regard to a $20 million asset that I think the town and the Board of Finance should know is slowly disappearing. Now, I think that should concern you. And quite frankly,
and Wayne, I don't need a lecture. I asked you if, in fact, it was relevant to tonight's agenda.
Yeah, it's relevant to tonight's agenda. If the agenda,
I will give you 3 minutes to make your presentation.
I don't need 3 minutes. Why would you limit me if it's important?
I asked. You heard what I said. I'll allow you 3 minutes to make your presentation.
All right.
Lisa,
well, you're going to want to
screen share. If you continue to interrupt me, sir, that's probably not a smart thing to do. Lisa, if Wayne wants to screen share for 3 minutes, he can do it.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Okay, hang on. You see in front of you the Tabor property. And as you all know, this was very heavily involved in litigation for a better part of 10, 12 years. The town ended up spending like $20 million on it with everything included. Is it worth that much? I don't know if it's worth that much. Maybe it's worth half that, but it's still a very significant asset to the town. We put in there the Shoreline Greenway Trail. And you say, well, what's the big deal with that? Well, the big deal with that was it was never approved by the RTM. And not only that, but the Shoreline Greenway Trail cuts that whole piece right in half. Now, I don't know who planned this, but whoever it was really wasn't thinking to the future and the development down there. The other thing is the first selectman is starting to allow all kinds of things down there. He has a tree farm in mind. He has this labyrinth. Well, you say the labyrinth is nice. What's wrong with the labyrinth? Well, it's right in the middle of everything. It was right smack in the middle of everything. I mean, what's the thinking that goes into that? You know, you have dump areas. You got a couple of parks down there. Get the solar fields. The point I'm going to make, because I'm only limited to 3 minutes here, is that ideas were proposed like a golf course, and J.C. Wyatt brought that forward. There were ideas of ball fields that the town could really use as terms of asset. What's going on down here, and this kind of outlines it, is that the first selectman has taken it on himself to unilaterally give this property away to the far left environmentalists. Why? Because they mean votes. And he does everything like that. He gives them the skewed energy committee and plan. He puts $1.6 million in their coastal resiliency fund. I don't understand that. He hires an $80,000 a year sustainability director. And then we have an environmentally biased town plan. And then he gives finally the Tabor property away for $20 million, whatever, for green project. Now he can't do that because it's clear in the town code, you cannot do that without RTM approval. Any encumbrances, and I see an encumbrance that what he's doing cannot be done. And he has no authority to do this. And what we're asking is, and quite frankly, what the RTM asked for, and this is really critical. This is really important. You know this. The RTM had this in
Chairman Mooney, 1 minute.
They had this in the citizen petition form. They sent the Board of Selectmen, a letter saying that they would like this item to be sent to an ad hoc committee so we could do a master plan for that enormous asset down there. What did the first selectman say? You're not going to do it. Why? Because he says he doesn't want it developed. But here's the point, people. Here's the whole point. What he's doing is developing that piece. He's giving it away. He's giving an asset of $20 million away, and you guys are letting him do it. The RTM is letting him do it. And, you know, I wouldn't want to hear this either if I was you. Now, I'm going to say one thing, and I'd like to close with this. You know, my wife used to say that with knowledge comes responsibility. But what goes on in this town is with no knowledge comes no responsibility. If people don't know about something, they don't have to act on it. And that's what's going on with the RTM. I think even
5 seconds, Wayne.
You're only giving me 3 minutes on this. I think it's so bad because why? You don't want to know about it because that means you're going to have to do something about it. And I'll be back.
Thank you for your presentation, Wayne. Okay. Other citizens' comments with regards to the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, which is to consider and if appropriate, approve the following budget transfer for the tax collector to fund the tax associate / sewer clerk position for the remainder of fiscal 21. And the request here is to transfer from contingency $21,561 and transfer into regular salaries and wages $2370, overtime $15,000, accrued payroll $191, and consulting services $4,000. I believe, Jamie, we have a letter from you with regards to this request.
Yes, thank you, Joe. I had sent a letter for part of the request, and as it mentioned, it's for the position as well as some other personnel accounts that were related to, which I referenced in the letter, previous transfer that the board acted on this past fall. I just also want to point out I am joined today with obviously Jim Finch is here, but also Margaret Liberta, Director of Human Resources, as well as Catherine LaBanca, Assistant Finance Director for the town, who has, as you know, been working closely with the tax department to work on implementing policies and procedures and evaluating the department. Unfortunately, the tax collector could not attend tonight. She had a prior engagement, so that is why she is not here. I just want to touch upon a couple things. As I mentioned in my letter about the evaluation of the tax department, I think it's important for the board to recognize that we've actually been evaluating the department a little over a year now. Through both consultants and as well as through the annual audit process. They evaluate and make comments based on the department and make recommendations. These efforts combined with most recently, as I mentioned, having the assistant tax collector down there, it's been apparent that the department is vulnerable. Primarily, a large part of it is due to staff turnover. Now, the turnover can come in two forms, obviously, through the paid staff, the hired staff that may go on through retirement. And as we know, we've lost some individuals who worked here many years through retirement recently. And also, as you know, the structure of the tax office as an elected tax collector, which is it is important to acknowledge the fact that within Branford, the tax collector is a working tax collector. They are responsible to not only oversee the department, but they are involved through the operations on a daily basis. So, as you mentioned, as we know, we have a tax collector who is currently in the second term. We have some new staff that has recently joined, our assistant tax collector has been there for a few years now, but still going through the training, and the accreditation has been challenging because of turnover in staff, COVID, with the postponement of the training and the testing, but they're working through it and getting on through that. So as I said, this leads to the structure leads to a number of vulnerabilities, which impacts the department not only in the service they can provide, but also really maintaining a frequent schedule of many of the processes. The tax office is much more than just collecting taxes. There's a lot of filings that need to be done, upgrading of records that need to be done. And that has, from our observations, has been impacted. So it has been determined that in order to step towards a more resilient department, to be able to sustain these changes and challenges that may occur, that is, we should add a tax associate position. I would like to also remind the board that back in 2010, we had the tax office had the current level of staffing that we're proposing. At that time in 2010, keep in mind we had a tax collector who was here for a number of years, as well as a seasoned staff. At that time, they ended up reducing a full-time position to essentially part-time, sharing a full-time position with the finance department. So that individual who works in the finance department would go down and assist the tax office in the busy times of year during the collections, or provide coverage during a vacation, or if there was an employee who had to take an extended leave for whatever reason. I also just want to mention, you may think, well, once we get to a level of our staff we're fully staffed at the current levels. Everybody's trained. Maybe we have the tax collector has been here for a number of terms. Would we then, in fact, be overstaffed? And I should say the answer is no. We feel that there's a number of tasks that can be performed on a more regular and a frequent basis that aren't occurring now under the current schedule, and quite honestly haven't been. Then that is a comment by our auditors. They have noticed that we should be doing things more on a frequent and regular schedule. And then we also recognize the fact that there's certain tasks that are currently being done that we're outsourcing that we could bring in-house, tax collections, back taxes, rather than sending it to a collection agency. We can perhaps, go after those internally with the staff. So with that, I'd welcome any questions. As I mentioned, I have the team here that's been working on this project to help with any information or provide any information or answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie, for that. And board members and others, we've got the letter that came from Jamie with regards to this request. Before we get started, Jim, what is our contingency balance? Oh, you'll get back to me on that one?
Oh, no, I have to unmute. So The contingency balance after this transfer is $699,439.
Thank you. And Jamie, or Margaret, what's the certification level within the staff, the current staff there, and what's the goal at this point with regards to certified tax collectors?
Well, the tax collector position, she is not yet certified. She's finished her coursework and she needs to take her final exam. So we're almost there. The assistant tax collector has finished 2 of her courses. She is not experienced enough to be certified yet. The new tax associate that we hired a couple of weeks ago has not yet had the opportunity, of course, to start her program. And that's a 3-year program.
Is that a condition of employment, or is that a goal or a requirement for that office? I'm not saying for that office, but for staff members here.
Each of the positions have that requirement in their job description and in their union contract.
So when do you expect them to attain that certification?
Well, the tax collector, hopefully, I haven't asked her recently, but I would hope within the next 6 months she would get completely certified because she has a 3-year experience and she's completed the coursework. She needs to take a final exam. The assistant tax collector still has 2 more courses and then the final exam. So there's only 1 course you can take per semester, if you will. So she has a spring course and she would have a fall course to take and then time to study for the exam. And then by then she would have the 3 years experience. So hopefully within the next year and a half, that certification would be a good goal for her to reach. And of course, as I mentioned, the new tax associate position will definitely take at least 3 years to get.
Okay.
Sure, I have a question.
Sure, Jeff or Bob. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I actually have 3 questions. So one is, can you tell me what the salary would be for 21-22 on this? And what does the job description look like? And then what are the qualifications that we're looking for in hiring someone to that position?
Well, the first is the salary level is, sorry, I didn't bring it with me, quoted correctly. I think it's $49,300 and some odd dollars for a full-time 100% salary level individual. We are looking for an experienced, we will look for an experienced person who has both accounting and or financial background, hopefully with some financial systems background experience for this new position. And that is comparable to the requirements that we just had for the other new tax associate that we just hired. And I forgot your second question. I answered your first and your third.
Yeah. I'm just looking for the description, the job description, what it entailed.
Yes.
Because it's a split job, right? They're working for the WPCA along with regular tax collection.
Yes. In essence, the new tax associate position we're asking for will be very similar to the tax associate position we just hired. And the purpose of that is to have 2 day-to-day operations individuals in the department working hands-on, leaving the tax assistant the opportunity to work with Catherine in a more partnership basis to look at our QDS software and make sure our processes and workflows are correct.
And if I just
Is a tax collector or tax collector involved in assessing that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it looks like we have already a pool of applicants for this position.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions from board members?
I have a question, Joe. Charlie.
Charlie, go ahead.
Margaret, is this a union position or is it non-union?
It's a union
The
position.
associate
The
would be
union
okay.
position.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Joe, if I can just add something.
Sure.
Yeah. Jamie Cosgrove speaking. Just to go back to, Charlie and Bob's question, the position, as in the letter says, tax associate sewer clerk, that is a position that currently exists. We're going to essentially have another position of another member of that same position, right? So it's really all tax work. The sewer work is the sewer assessments and tracking that. We want to get away. Keep in mind, this is, as I mentioned, a step towards developing a resilient tax office. So rather than having this position, one individual with that is solely responsible for a task, we want to be sure that the staffing is really trained, knowledgeable, and able to perform all the tasks that are required or part of that office. This will, as I said, address that vulnerability that comes with turnover. And so I just want to say that the position already exists. We're just adding another to a current job description or current position that exists.
So Jamie, so what's happening is you're cross-training these folks, these two associates, and they're really doing the job of a tax collector. We're not going to label it sewer collection. It's all one. It's all under the same roof.
Yes, I mean they're part of the yes, they're cross-trained. They're doing all the work, or they should be. Now, again, I would defer. I'm sure those who are more familiar with the operations could probably provide more information on it. But I think in terms of quality control or internal controls, there's certain things you want an individual to do, and maybe not. Somebody else is more of the checks or the tax. Obviously, not everybody's going to do the work of what the assistant tax collector does, or even the tax collector. But these two individuals, these two positions, if this position is funded, would essentially be able to are cross-trained or trained to do all the work that is required, and they can essentially provide backup or coverage for
each other. Okay. Bob, you got more questions?
No, I said I'll move it.
You'll move it? Oh, thank you. Been moved, seconded by Victor. Any other discussion from the board?
I have one more. Joe, I have one more question.
Sure, Charlie.
Is the funding here now for this new associate? Is that in front of us?
The transfer would be supplementing. There's the $2,300 that goes into salary, and there's monies that go into overtime. Jim or Jamie have more detail on that, or Catherine?
Well, the one point I would make is, is just so that you're reminded during the public hearings, is that by having this position start now, you're getting some of that funding in place, but next year you're going to fund it presumably for the full year. We had thought, myself, Catherine, and Margaret, and Jamie, clearly about funding it in the new budget, but essentially we felt that we wanted to get ahead of that, and that we wanted to have a few months of this new person to get acclimated. And it still takes a while to get acclimated, because you still have to go through like the whole cycle. And, they're coming in with a partial cycle, but it's still better than having somebody coming in July and August during the whole peak season. And Bob, for example, the way it existed prior is one person really understood the sewer assessments, in that whole process. So when the WPCA acts on that, and to Jamie's point is, well, when that person leaves, who then picks up that? And so by having two folks that are basically doing everything, and you could certainly divvy up the work. Maybe one does the assessments odd year and even year, but, to learn all of that stuff, if they go to another town or somebody retires or they move, then we have someone to pick that up because, it was difficult. It's been difficult historically when we have turnover there. I think the other thing is the office is called tax collector, but it does collect more than taxes. It collects sewer utility fees. It collects sewer assessments. Not many are left, but had water assessments. It does the beach, the trip passes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of other. It's really more a revenue collection than just tax collection, and so those job descriptions and a title like that sort of encompasses the other areas of their tasks.
Totally agree, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey, Jim. Joe again, Charlie. Hey, Jim,
Sure.
to my question about the wages, as I look at that, this 21,000, I thought the 15,000 was for Catherine's work. Where's the wages for this new associate?
Yeah, so, Joe, I can answer that.
Sure. Thank you, Charlie.
So, Charlie, under regular salaries, you'll see just a transfer of $2,370. When we were requesting this, we were figuring 4 months of the full position for, which is, as Margaret stated, just over, I think it's just over $49,800. So we figured out we would need 4 months of that. But however, there is a balance in that account. We feel a sufficient balance due to the vacancies that had occurred. So we think the 2,370 is all we'll need in addition to the current balance that exists in the regular salaries account.
Thanks.
Okay, one
thanks.
further question. Joe, one further question. Jamie, will the consultant services still be needed to carry on beyond June?
Well, beyond June?
Yeah, because it says
we're still developing the budget. We hope we can have a training program that we can get these individuals, these positions trained prior to the July 1 collection period. So I don't anticipate, but again, still have to meet with the tax collector in developing a budget.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Charlie, I think Catherine is probably the best person to speak to that because, like we're all aware, she spends most of the time there and interacts with the players, and also is providing that link to finance in terms of developing, the estimates going forward. So I like you, Catherine, to also respond to that.
Thanks,
Charlie, if you could look in a crystal ball, I would love to say that going through that they would be able to stop in June, but we have been experiencing, just various roadblocks to getting there. Whether it's staff turnover, the current consultant is going to be out of town for 2 months. So when she comes back, it won't be until May. So hopefully that will be enough time to train a new person, either the new person who just started, or if this position is funded. So I'm hoping that 2 months, but there is a lot of work to be done. We still need to write those policies and procedure manuals, still implement those. But my goal is to have it done by June. I just can't guarantee that right now. Does that help at all?
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion with regards to this motion that's on the floor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried unanimously. Okay. Just one other comment before we adjourn. This is a short agenda agenda night and look forward to future meetings. But I just wanted to point out that it's not my intention to be harsh with regards to the presentation of citizens' comments, but I do, and communications, but I do discourage communications and information that's really not germane to the agenda. So we'll take that into consideration going forward. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By
Second.
Jeff, Harry, seconded, and all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye.
Thank you.
All right, folks, take care. Thank you, Lisa and others.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.